Hello, everybody. I will be back in about 20 seconds. And tonight we are talking about our first book club selection, Psychic Tarot by Nancy Antenucci. Yeah, be back in 20 seconds. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Tarot by Hilary Live. I am your hostess with the mostest, Hilary of tarotbyhilary.com, professional tarot reader and EFT tapping practitioner, here to demystify the mystical and put you in touch with the most beautiful of gifts, your own intuition. Because yes, my friends, do not argue with me. You have intuition, especially after reading a book like Psychic Tarot by Nancy Antenucci with Melanie Howard, our first official book club selection. I will say that I am still not finished, but we're still going to discuss it. I am on page 196, Helpful Boundaries. And then the last chapter of Traits of a True Reader, getting me up to page 203, which is where we're going to end our discussion, and leaving the appendices in their rightful place for research and to reference. So the images of the 78 tarot cards is Appendix A. Appendix B is a self-study guide with suggestions of self-study for self-study of the tarot. And then, yeah, and that's it. So, and there is a bibliography at the end too with other recommended readings. So, but yeah, tonight's episode, we're discussing this book. I know there were a couple of people that were definitely reading along. I think Stephanie was reading. I can't remember if Dina or Katie was reading, but like I know we had some people that were reading along with it, because I'm not going to be judgy if you didn't read it, but I will more than likely be focusing this episode, if we don't have people here to discuss it, on parts that I found particularly beneficial. I definitely went in with my highlighters and my pens and my notes, um, and and certainly I didn't do all of the exercises in the book, because there are, of the many exercises, there's a lot of exercises in this book. And it's for a thin volume like this, it's very, very deep. So some of the exercises I just did not get through, but some of them I will definitely revisit again and again. And, as I'm wrapping up reading this, I'm realizing that I did definitely read this back in 2011 when it came out. And when I first got it at San Francisco Bay Area Tarot Symposium, SF Bats, which is a tarot conference that I attended years ago, right after becoming the tarot apprentice to Teresa Reed. My first conference was Reader Studio, and then my second conference, tarot conference, was so Reader Studio was in April, and then SF Bats was in August. So it was just like very back to back, like lots of conferences that year. But I'm fairly certain, like as I was reading this, I know that it was a reread, because I must have read it immediately after returning from SF Bats, because a lot of the things that I do in my practice of professionally giving tarot readings for the last 20 years, I didn't have this book in 2005 when I started reading tarot. But now that I have it, and now that I read it in 2011, like I integrated a lot of the practices in this book without even realizing where they came from. They came from here. So thank you, Nooch. So Katie says, hello, I am interested in what will be discussed. I haven't read it, but fascinated about the book. Awesome. Cool. So we'll discuss it. We'll talk about it. And then if you can pick up a copy of Psychic Tarot for yourself, I would recommend it. I believe I'm not 100% sure of this, but I think that Nancy was saying that there's going to be an audiobook for it. I could be wrong. I feel like I saw that on the Book of Face the other day. I'm just like, no, really? There's going to be an audiobook of it? Like, because that's my first book club selection. Like, I'm reading it right now. Like, that's fantastic. Like, and there is this concept of like that synchronicity, which she discusses in the book. That synchronicity is a part of the reading process, specifically what she calls she calls it the 6 principles. Yeah, the 6 principles. The 4th principle is synchronicity, which she basically, her terminology of synchronicity is like giving the reading, basically interpreting the reading. The form is the cards themselves, but we'll talk about it, right? We'll talk about it. Okay, so let me pull up the agenda. Actually, did I have an agenda already done? Did I have an overlay already waiting in the wings? It's possible. Catching up on the book club. Well, I mean, this is the book club, so I'm going to go ahead and take that down and make a new book club image, new agenda for today. But yeah, so in the meantime, while I'm making the agenda, welcome. We do have, speaking of principles and pillars, we do have 3 pillars of this here live stream, which is the astro-weather from Teresa Reed's wonderful AstroBiz Digest to kick off the episode, the top of the episode. We will have the mid-episode reading, in which one lucky viewer will win a 3-card reading with me live on the broadcast. And who knows, we might use some of the tips and tricks used in this book. And then we will have the weekend forecast, in which I will pull a tarot card or an oracle card, so we can enter into the weekend prepared and not scared. So if that sounds good to everyone, let me know. Michelle is also here. Hello to Michelle. Welcome to the broadcast. Let me go ahead and pull up an agenda. I was actually really happy to see in Psychic Tarot there was 2 versions of the Celtic Cross. There was the classic Celtic Cross with a significator, I believe. So that would be an 11-card Celtic Cross. And then there was the Wellesian Celtic Cross, that was James Wells's version. So there's a lot of good examples of different spreads in here, which she calls forms. And I will definitely talk to you about the principles as well. The 6 principles, her system useful for any kind of divination. So you could use this for tarot, you could use it for Lenormand, you could use it for a psychic reading, you could use it for runes, any type of divination. So we'll get to that. But I was happy to see that there were some, different spreads in there too. So, yes. I think I'm gonna make that a little bit bigger. Yeah, that'll work. That looks good. You'll see. You'll see in a second. And transparent background. Okay. Good, 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 good. Got it, got it, got it. That's not it. I have to upload it first. Add. There we go. Okay, good, good, done, ready. Okay. So yeah, we're going to be talking about psychic tarot. So yeah, you don't have to have read it in order to discuss it, because I'm going to talk about the things that I liked about it, the things that I didn't like about it. Towards the end of the book, there were recommendations on it's really interesting. The recommendations, the different recommendations, especially started on like in chapter 18, reading with the sight. So integrating all of the concepts discussed so far in the book and then showing them in practice, or how you would put them into practice. So like giving a tarot reading with a hint of the sight, giving a tarot and psychic reading, giving a psychic reading with a hint of tarot, and then finally giving a psychic reading. So there were certainly portions of that didn't make me feel entirely comfortable, because it's just like, I think I would probably, I think I'm mostly a tarot reader. I mean, like, but I can't lie and say that there have been things that I have seen that I, say, especially the more outlandish and off the wall thing that you see, you should say that, in my experience, because it's like the more off the wall it is, the more necessary it is to say the damn thing, say the weird thing. And so I do. It's just like personal experience has dictated, like, if I don't say it, like, I could kick myself, or it's just like, it's not about me. You've got to take your ego out of the equation when you're doing this work professionally. And there was a particular thing that Nancy says in here that it's just like you've got to let go of needing to be right. It's just like let go of the concept of right or wrong, and go with what feels real or true. So like, I wish I had flagged all of the pages that I ended up highlighting as like, oh, like that in particular was like a hit to the stomach. That particular phrase. Yes, it's like, make peace. And I think I shared that today on socials. Make peace with the idea that what you sense may not make sense. In fact, a lot of the time it probably won't. It is more important that the information be true than logical or right. So I'm like, ooh, hits me in the fifis. Okay, all right. But when you go to the back portion of the book, where she's giving examples of like reading with tarot and a hint of sight, reading with sight with a hint of tarot, it's just like, definitely I feel more comfortable with mostly tarot with like a smattering, a taste of the sight, if you will. Stephanie is here. So yes, we are just messengers, even if it doesn't resonate for them in the moment. Yeah, and a lot of the times there's certain readings that I'm not going to remember the readings because like that's another concept that I learned from this book, by the way. Sacred amnesia, cultivating sacred amnesia. If I'm giving a reading for somebody, I'm not going to remember the content of the reading because the reading is not for me, it's for that person. So it helps so much, and I thought that I would never be able to cultivate it. I have cultivated it. Thank you, Nooch. Thank you, Nooch. But I do remember some of the readings that I gave. While I haven't remembered the details of the reading, I do sometimes have clients coming back and saying that reading made no freaking sense at all to me until later. So sometimes in hindsight, it all makes sense. But you just gotta release it, and it's so hard, guys, so hard. Right, exactly, Katie. It might make sense to the person you're reading for, exactly. And there's a lot of that in this book. It's just like let go of your ego, let go of your logic, learn how to be observant of the information that comes from you sideways. Some of these phrases are really, really beautiful, but there's such a great way of phrasing some of this information, because it's just like, it's really hard to write a book about these things that are intuited, or, it's hard because it's hard to put into words what it is we do or how we sense things. So Stephanie says, yeah, sometimes a little distance and perspective is needed for sure. Oh, and that also reminds me. So I did do an interview with Nancy Antenucci when this book came out. So I'm gonna link to that and reference that. But it was 7 questions with Nancy Antenucci, and one of the questions that I would ask everyone was, how do you sense? How do you receive your psychic information? Because I'm always fascinated by that. It's just like, because how I receive psychic information is not the same as how other people receive psychic information. So I'm always asking about that. Yeah. So 7 questions with Nancy Antenucci. I am going to drop that into the chat. We're going to talk a little bit. I think I'm going to structure things in this way. I'm going to talk a little bit about my interview with Nancy. I'm going to link it here. Then we're going to drop into the astro-weather from Teresa Reed. Then we're going to talk more about the book. Then we're going to do the mid-episode reading. Then we'll do the weekend forecast at the end as usual. Sound good, everyone? I hope so. And I hope I'm broadcasting on the tube of you. Oh, good, I am. For a second there, I was just like, why isn't the tube of you coming up? So that's the link there, guys. Don't click on it now. Or if you want to click on it now, sure, click on it now, but don't click away from here. Follow the sound of my voice. But if you want to read that in depth later. 7 question series, which I really would love to get back into, actually. Hopefully I will with more things that I'm reviewing. I'm going to be reviewing Gwendolyn Womack's new book, which she said she would send to me. And I'm hoping that no one stole my packages. It's tough being a tarot deck reviewer or a book reviewer when you're not sure of when the things will be showing up and if people are stealing your packages. Don't steal from a witch. How about that? Probably not a good idea for karma. All right. So hopefully that'll be showing up soon. But 7 questions to people within the tarot community, whether they're bloggers, authors, deck creators, fellow readers, or sometimes all of the above. So actually, I kicked off this series with Psychic Tarot and with Nooch. I'll admit I was intrigued by the prospect of reading her book, but also taken aback by the title. The title itself is a bold assertion. Honestly, I wasn't even sure I wanted to read it. Then at SF Bats in 2011, I saw Nancy and her mini troupe perform a vignette about what a psychic tarot reading looks like. It was enjoyable, with Nancy cast as the little psychic voice that the reader listened to and then relayed to the querent. Nancy would hold up signs, and there was one sign about moss that struck me. If I'm remembering correctly, it was the smell of moss. This little tidbit of information made me scratch the itch to buy Psychic Tarot immediately, because this is clearly someone who gets it. It's weird. I was just like, but she gets it. She gets it. And clearly after reading this and then rereading it, she gets it. So the book is chock full of information and exercises. But more about Nancy. Nancy Antenucci, Between the Worlds, LLC, is a seasoned tarot reader as well as a teacher of intuitive and creative strategies. Her book, Psychic Tarot, Use Your Natural Abilities to Read the Cards, is a compilation of 25 years of hard-earned wisdom, practical know-how, and unending passion of the creative unknown to her clients, students, and colleagues. The Twin Cities Metro magazine named her one of the Twin Cities' best psychics. So, and here are the questions that I had for her. Katie says, no stealing from witches, no mistreating a witch. Correct. Yes, exactly. So the questions that I had for her, you mentioned in the beginning of your book how you were surprised that most tarot readers didn't consider themselves to be psychic. What is it about the P word that makes both sides of the reading table on edge? So recently I've been telling clients to start pretending that they have psychic powers. Almost everything I accomplished in this life has been due to thinking that it is possible. Quote, pretending. When you ask why a reader would be resistant to claiming, calling, or using psychic skills, my first reaction is still disbelief. At my very first reader studio during a breakfast roundtable, Rachel Pollack asked if we thought we were psychic. We ran around the table and everyone denied it, but also wished for it. I was dumbfounded. I thought it just came with the territory. If you are using magical symbols, delving into magical scenes, and sensing a world besides our own, how could you not call that psychic? Joanna Gargulo Sherman picked up on my shock. She asked me what my last name was. After I told her Antenucci, she smiled and said, psychic, Italian, same thing. This was truly a turning point for me. I needed to be true to my path. Now, years later, I have a few ideas why nowadays psychic is often referred to as the P word, but which, by the way, that term always brings something else to mind. There is an internal pressure to be respected, right, and rational. I understand the need to raise our profession above the fray of swindlers and snake oil doctors to gain the respect and money we deserve. The price, however, may be the loss of magic and mystery. It's a fine line. We need to let the world know the powerful tool of tarot, but we can't sell our soul in the exchange. There's absolutely nothing wrong in reading only the cards with little or no divine connection. There's a problem, however, when one refuses to acknowledge when that energy is present or cleans it up so that you appear a certain way. Let love have her way with you. Wow. Yeah, exactly, Stephanie. It took me years to get comfortable with the P word. Yeah. Yeah. And like for me, like it's hard for me still to say that I'm a professional psychic. I'm much more comfortable with saying I'm a professional tarot reader because that's what I do. Like that's my tool. I read tarot. So it's just like, so it's easy for me to kind of like worm my way around it and not say that I'm psychic, because it's just like yes, but also I'm a tarot reader. Like I'm a professional tarot reader. I do this work in exchange for money. I'm a professional tarot reader, but it's just like the psychic word was still a little weird. It's almost like I feel more comfortable with other people saying it about me than me saying it about myself. Like me self-describing myself as a psychic doesn't feel entirely correct, but I'm more okay with other people saying, "Oh yeah, you're that psychic." I'm like still a little uncomfortable though. Stephanie says there's a certain power that comes with owning it, I think. Yes. Yes, owning it unapologetically. Like I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress, but I can certainly understand where Nancy was coming from in answering that question. So I'm not going to read this entire interview in full, but I'm just going to pick off little bits. So my next question was, what is your take on the Little White Book, LWB? Helpful or hindrance? Um, I knowing what I know now after rereading this, it's just like, oh well, I could have answered this for her, but because at the very start of this book, she encourages people to, at this point, in order to develop the trust in your own creative authority, I suggest that you don't yet study card definitions. So my entire path, so her answer was, my entire path as a psychic reader started with the absence of the Little White Book with my first tarot deck. Some guy in an assembly line birthed a powerful seer the day they goofed up. It never dawned on me that each had a specific definition. I just took it in my own hands and asked each card what they were all about. There was a time before internet where you only had 2 or 3 decks to choose from, and even less literature if you lived in a small town. So I strongly feel that the first layer of your definition should be your own organic reality. The next layer can be the Little White Book. The third layer may be a traditional studies that go well beyond the Little White Book. Makes sense. Makes sense. Now, my favorite question to ask: how do you receive psychic information? I usually get movies or stories. Sometimes there is merely a still image, like a sepia photograph. I hear, smell, sense, hear, and feel stuff all the time during a reading. I've always had an inclination towards invisible beings. Tarot gave me the environment to actually converse with them. I developed my psychic skills with imagination and creativity despite the traditional viewpoint of deep study of chakras and the clairs, clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairalience. In my experience, all the clairs have usually restricted or limited more folks than liberated them. I tend to disagree with that, more so with like I like having a label for it or word for it or a way of explaining it. Without it being limiting. I don't find them to be limiting, but like, to each their own. So Stephanie says, I still like studying the LWB with new non-traditional decks as they all have their nuances, even if they're RWS based. I agree with you. And that's my recommendation to people that when they're attracted to a more non-traditional deck, looking at the Little White Book or the guidebook, especially if the guidebook is also written by the artist that created the deck. I find that to be incredibly helpful to understand their visual choices. Like, why did you put a crow in the Fool card? Or, why did you delete the symbol that usually is such a staple of the Hierophant card, for example? Like, I like to understand the rationale for it, and I find that it creates a deeper understanding of the tarot as a whole from working with non-traditional decks. But I agree with you. I like studying an LWB if it's non-traditional. Let's see. This is a concept that's a little like, woohoo. Talk to me about the idea of a spiritual committee and how did you originally meet yours? At one point, it seemed like everyone had one guide and knew their name. I was curious about mine. Deep in meditation, I asked if I could meet the one. The answer given was, what costume do you want me to wear? Love is one source. We can take on any role that will help you understand that you came from love and will return to it. Bingo, the Divine Committee was born. I decided that on my team, I would like Jesus, Brigid, a white stag, a few rabbits, and Krishna. This committee varies according to the experiences of my life. For the sitters and students in my life, I often sense that their divine committee includes loved ones that parted, ancestors, and past life selves. We're spirits having a human adventure. As soon as you incarnate, you are given two gifts, gravity and death. Most of us forget the whole spirit thing with these two gifts. The committee is a structure representing the one source that keeps you engaged, vital, and remembering that you are the one playing the role of human. I also asked what your favorite tarot deck is, and she said I can't choose. I can't pick one deck over the others. My most cherished deck, however, will be the Rider-Waite deck, given to me when I was 10 years old. Its colors and texture are beautiful and old. I use it in rare magic ceremonies, such as burying the ashes of my beloved Siamese cat Kiki with the Queen of Wands. Aww. Yes. Yeah, I'm not sure about my my committee. Stephanie said I still need to meet my committee. So I'm assuming that Stephanie read the book. I'm pretty sure it may be just you and me, Stephanie, that did the reading, but that's fine. I'm more than willing to discuss it between the two of us and more. When and how did you realize you needed or wanted a co-author, Melanie Howard, for this book? So she offered, so a ghostwriter was offered as a solution because I was not interested in writing a psychic tarot book. She offered a ghostwriter as a solution. I realized that the student that I had been teaching once a week for nearly a year was a writer. Thus, Melanie became the co-writer. In hindsight, I wished I was far more clear in my intent to have my student become the scribe. What is your favorite or most utilized exercise in the book? The essence spread is my favorite exercise. Actually, it's mine too. It's an organic structure that allows for one to explore the different families of tarot in their own time and rhythm. I loved introducing new students to the 4 elemental tools with visualization. Yeah, so I wrote that down. I still haven't done the essence spread in full, but it was certainly interesting to do the preliminary ones before adding in the major arcana. I feel like I almost understand the minor arcana, specifically the court cards, a lot more clearly now from revisiting those exercises. My hope is to produce a workbook that will not only act as a companion for this book, but with additional exercises and visualizations as well. So yeah, check out that full interview on my website at the link I provided. I'll also put that in the description of this video once we're done recording. Let's go to the astro-weather, and then I'll talk about some of these flaggies that I put on the book and some of the things that I highlighted in this book. Okay. All right. So definitely, we are feeling the Mercury retrograde. Tis the season of Mercury retrograde. It's a lot, you guys. It's a lot. And Venus was already retrograde. So we've got 2 retrogrades going on right now. Oh, yes. So Stephanie says, I guess that workbook isn't happening now that it's been nearly 15 years, LOL. Yes, but it might, who knows? Because, it's been 15 years and I think they're only just doing the audiobook now. So, like who knows? Maybe there'll be the audiobook and then they'll do a workbook. But honestly, like I wrote a bunch of things down in my notebook. And so I've almost like created my own workbook to go along with Psychic Tarot for my own funsies, hold on. Let me check out my settings here. Okay, cool. So you never know, Stephanie. So Katie said, I went regularly to a spiritualist church, open meditation sessions, and that was where I met my guides. They turned up as they had to teach me something. So that might be also the reason why you haven't met your committee yet, Stephanie. That's a possibility. Just like, if you need to learn something, they'll show up. I will say that Bridget is probably one of them on my committee because, I was at a time studying to become a priestess of Bridget. So she's still my girl. So we had a label in our coven too, or like our outside pagan group, where it's just like, oh, she's a Bridget girl, or she's a Hecate girl, or she's a Persephone girl, or she's a Athena girl, like it's still there. It hasn't gone away. So she's probably on my committee, I would say. There's also you can always do an exercise that I think it was from Gala Darling about like the dream board of directors, and like create your own, So sometimes imagination and intuition and pretending can, facilitate each other. Visualization can also facilitate, true meeting of our guides or our committee. So something to think about. All right, let me also let me introduce the astro-weather from Teresa Reed, the wonderful Astro Biz Digest from Teresa Reed, aka the Tarot Lady. It is $99 for a year-long subscription. Astrology in layman's terms, straight to your email inbox. I have found it to be incredibly helpful in planning my own personal life, but it is geared towards entrepreneurs and business owners. But don't let that stop you, because it's still got really good information in there. And you can get a copy of it yourself at thetarolady.com/astrobizdigest. Or you can just look on her top navigation at thetarolady.com. All right. Yeah. True, Katie. That also could happen. I had some turn up that I did not expect in my committee. All right. So Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, and some other stuff. And also first day of spring. First day of spring was yesterday, I believe. So happy spring in the Northern Hemisphere, everybody. So yeah, Venus is retrograde still until April 12th. Curb your spending, set boundaries, and be mindful of your PR. And Mercury is retrograde until April 7th. Back up your computer, slow down, anticipate delays, watch your words, and avoid signing contracts or buying new tech gear. So yeah, the big news is Aries season is in the house on the 20th. The sun skids into the sign of the Ram, my home sign. Thank you very much. My sun sign, Aries in the house. This means it's time to be bold. Take charge, start new things, and blaze trails. Who cares what the other guy does when you can be setting the trends? A few risks are also favorable now, but you do want to keep in mind that Venus and Mercury is in retrograde. Look before you leap if you want to avoid unpleasant surprises. The sun remains in Aries until April 19th. So March 20th to April 19th, we are in Aries season. Okay. So those are the big transits that are going on right now. Yeah, Stephanie, whoop, whoop, Aries reporting in. Yep. Call for all my Aries. So that's the big stuff going on. Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, Sun is in Aries starting yesterday. Now, for the details, so today, Friday, March 21st, Friday begins on a promising note when the moon trines Chiron at 11:22 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Use the spot for inspiring conversations, blogs, or live streams. The energy gets depressing AF when the moon squares Saturn at 2:23 p.m. This is your cue for a coffee break. Get back in the game at 5:32 p.m. when Venus sextiles Pluto, a friendly transit that works well for networking or creative brainstorming with your team. The perfect end to the day. Today, Friday, March 21st, is a power day for Sagittarius and a weekday for Gemini. All right. Saturday and Sunday this weekend, the moon enters Capricorn at 3:29 a.m., setting the weekend up for success. Organize files, take care of taxes, make CEO decisions, host events. It's all good. A series of harsh angles throughout Saturday means it's best to keep your head down and focus on tasks that require your attention. A Sun-Venus conjunction at 9:07 p.m. is marvelous for feminine leadership, networking, and swanky events. Sunday has the Sun in sextile with Pluto all day, which is terrific for handling corporate business affairs, taxes, or starting new enterprises. Put your energy there and you'll have a boss-up day. The evening turns to crap at 7:23 p.m., though, when the moon makes a series of unfortunate aspects. Shut the show down and get your rest. You don't have time for drama. Both days, Saturday and Sunday, are power days for Capricorn and weekdays for Cancer. So all in all, a very pithy astro-weather. And Katie says there is going to be such an energy change when all those planets sitting in Pisces start to move into Aries. Yeah. You know, I'm impatient. I'm impatient for that to happen right now. I'm like, please, come on, everyone, go, 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 go. Especially when Mars was in Aries, but retrograde, it was a lot. I'm like, oh no, oh, this is too much. All right. So, as usual, I am open for. Why is it so like dim and gray in here? As usual, I am open to taking a pick at the AstroBiz Digest for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. If there was a little bit of weirdness in any of those days and you want an astrological reason why, let me know in the chat and I'll take a peek before we move back into talking about Psychic Tarot. Yes, Stephanie. So I should make my exit from the party I'm going to Sunday evening around 7:30 Eastern. And it's my Aries husband's birthday weekend this weekend. So Mr. Tarot by Hilary. So we be celebrating. Yep. For me too. These last weeks have been so tiring. The moon has been keeping me awake all night. And see, so I think I've talked about this previously on the broadcast, where it's one or the other. I'm either super, super energized or super, super tired. And like I'll sleep. So I think last night I might have slept for 10 hours. Like I was just out. I'm gonna have to look at that. Yeah, 10 hours. So I was knocked out. Yeah, the lunar eclipse was so exhausting. Yeah, it was. And I didn't stay up for it either. I wanted to be able to see it. And nope, And then I think there was supposed to be a lot of cloud cover at the time that it was eclipsing. So it's just like, even if I had stayed up to watch it, I wouldn't have been able to see anything anyway. So I was just like, yeah, I'm going to bed. I think I went to bed at like 9:30 that night. I'm telling you, I am ruled by the moon completely and utterly. It'll knock me out or rev me up. All right. Any takers for the AstroBiz Digest? Let's get back into Psychic Tarot. Yeah, Katie says I was awake either nights of it, but I was asleep when the eclipse happened. Woke up after it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So back to Psychic Tarot. All right. So I'm just gonna flip. Oh, nearly dropped it. Jeez. So I'm just gonna flip through and read out some of the highlights that I had here. Which I don't know if I actually flagged all of the highlights. I did find it interesting that that the minor arcana pips were taught first, then the court cards, then the major arcana. I thought the order was interesting, but I can understand why she did it like afterwards. And then I wrote down all of the Fool's Journey. Like, I wrote down all of the questions and the portions. So the Fool's Journey exercise, um, starting on page 50 and going all the way to page 63, is basically talking you through the major arcana and the Fool's Journey. So, like, you are the fool, you walk down a road I wish I was heading towards. Then you meet the magician. He asks, "What are you becoming?" You find the high priestess. She asks, "What do you secretly know?" So I was just like, I kept on writing down all of the questions that the major arcana figures were asking. And then I was thinking about it, and I was just like writing down some answers too. Yes, exactly. I love how incredibly detailed the Fool's Journey was. Yeah. So it's just like she's describing, birds, song, and butterflies dance around you almost as soon as you have left the sea. Your dog chases a rabbit into the underbrush. You're meeting the Empress. The rabbit scurries under her skirt. So it's just like there's a lot of scope for visualization, or creating a guided meditation almost of this. She asks, "What do you desire?" The Emperor asks, "What are you thinking clearly about?" The Hierophant isn't depicted as one person, but many different people: a Buddhist monk, a cardinal, a whirling dervish. He asks, "What do you believe in?" Yes, used all the senses. All the way through the Chariot, what drives you. The Strength card, what is your biggest challenge these days? The Hermit asks, what does your inner voice tell you? The Justice card, my greatest truth is. Like, I mean, it's really, really good. So I liked that part a lot. And then I put tabs on all of the different exercises, which were very helpful. The turning point exercises, and then the essence spread and meditation in full. which also can be done as almost like a guided meditation. So it says it would be helpful to record the following meditation so you can play the tape back while doing the spread. So, because it allows for pauses, it's almost like a visualization before pulling cards. So I already read this part, making peace with the idea that what you sense may not make sense. That's in the energy basics chapter. And then I flagged synchronicity, a portion that describes synchronicity, because I feel like I'm already doing that in another book that I'm reading right now. I think it's Life Magic by Laura Bushnell, because that also tells you to start a journal, a magic journal, basically, of like noticing the magic in your life and noticing when circumstances seem to align around you or in favor of you. So too, can you do that with this book too? Starting a new journal or dedicating a large section of your tarot journal to spotting instances of synchronicity. Note all daily moments of it. Note the times you were thinking of a person and they call you, or you really wanted to read a certain book and someone just happens to give it to you. Simply wanting to record synchronicity will encourage more instances of it to happen. I really liked this portion in seeing the unseen, and using our senses differently and observing our senses differently. Um, it's what's your reason for being here? Um, the pulse of this work is creative authority, the expression of one's life with full acceptance of one's own loving nature. The source of our very being is spirit and love. Okay. So says Nancy Antenucci. Most of us have a broken connection, unfortunately. We learn that love comes with conditions and rules, actually diminishing love's power. Creative authority is believing in your own worth to love and be loved, warts and all. You may have also learned that what one cannot see or touch should be feared. Anything of magical quality is deemed safe only through religious middle management. Or maybe you've learned that going straight to the source would create imbalance. It's essential to declare your own creative authority by exploring your true reality regarding life, death, and everything in between. If this review of your belief system seems too daunting, consider the idea that all energy is either love or fear. You can serve one or the other, but not both at the same time. That got me in the fifis. That hit to the heart. I'm just like, oh, okay. And, I experience this a lot with clients too, where people come to me for a reading because they're fearful. They're in fear. They not fearful of the cards, but like fearful of what's going to happen, or like needing to exert some kind of control by getting a reading to find out what's going to happen. And then they come to me and it's just like, oh, I'm not the right reader for that. I'm going to tell you, the most likely outcome. But most of my readings are confirmation of something you already know on some level, like 80% of them, which is how I began my reading today with a new client. I was just like, I see you've booked with readers before. I see you've had a tarot reading before, but here's how I do it. I'll always start with a new client that way. And sometimes I won't preface by saying that, but most of the time, when I say about 80% of the time, my readings are confirmation of what you already know on some level, because I believe you have intuition too. It's exactly that. The reading turns into exactly that. So, but you know, look at all energy as either love or fear. Is this intent based on love or in fear? Strong intention makes for strong decisions. There's another thing that I flagged here that I'm going to go back to it. Like some of these exercises I'm going to go back to. So this one's the bathtub meditation to connect. Reaching your spiritual ancestors can be done in the safety and leisurely timing of a nice hot bath. So it's basically it's a visualization. It's a guided meditation to access either your mother's side of the family or your father's side of the family. Walking past your mother, her mother, all the way back to the beginning of your gene pool, walking past each one until you sense the one woman who is the source of your current fear or dysfunction. If you can see her face, ask her to tell you her story. Why did this start? What were her choices? Tell her how the issue has manifested itself in your life and ask her to help you release it from this grip. This can also be done with your father and his family issues too. It's interesting, right? Like there's so much more in this book than I thought. This was another really interesting concept that I flagged that I also kind of wanted to use with tapping as well. So the chapter is chapter 9, The Many Selves. The psyche selves are a group of invisibles that have significant information about and for the seeker. And the seeker could be you in this instance, or it could be a client. These selves are literally parts of one's unconscious, representing aspects of their personality. Often these are the seeker's strong needs and desires. The separateness of some of these aspects creates the illusion of each having a personality of its own. Often the seeker is well aware of unresolved needs and suppressed talents. What he or she may not know is how all of these blocks and limitations came to be and where potential is hiding. Using the psyche selves format, the reader can be well advised by the seeker, him or herself indirectly. So a psyche self takes form when directly asked compassionate questions such as, why did you develop? How old are you? What is your need? What part of the story is yours? What role do you play on the seeker's team? What will you need in order to go along with the seeker's goals? And if that need cannot be fulfilled at this time, what would you be willing to accept in trade? So I wrote a note here about that. Am I going to be able to show you guys? Is it here? Hold on. Here. There we go. So I wrote, pull cards on these questions, then tap on them. So I might be doing that for myself. So Stephanie, I do want to ask, what were your favorite parts of the book? And what were your takeaways? So from trusting the site, I highlighted divination is the art of finding the most profound, relevant question behind all of the other questions. And I did do an article on that too, about asking the right question, asking empowering questions. In fact, I have that as a reference link when someone books a session with me. I'm just like, please read this. And you can take some of these questions to your session, but please read this. So when I was talking a little bit about seeing things sideways, when developing sight, synchronicity becomes your new best friend. Record a question or a need for clarification about a specific area in your life. Put it aside for an hour or so. During that time, make sure your receptivity switch is turned on. Go for a walk or engage in an activity that promotes observation, such as sitting by a window. Pay attention to all events as if you were living in a time zone of synchronicity. So Stephanie says, I liked her grounding techniques, super helpful. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, because all of this groundwork, all of the stuff, like pretty much the first 100 pages of this book is laying the groundwork for then the 6 principles of a reading. So yes, and all of her examples were great to clarify the concepts. Yeah. So she has examples, and then also anything that was in italics, like paragraphs that were in italics, came from her own time as a, her own clients, or examples from her professional practice too. I also really loved from this chapter of Trusting the Sight. Many names have been assigned to this role of a reader: psychic, medium, channeler, advisor, or seer, but they are all governed by the first and most important role, witness. So before the yeah, the one that really got to me, though, so Stephanie said, yes, I loved the personal stories. The personal story that really stuck with me the most, there were 2 of them. The first one was about, like, that it was very, very literal. I think it was more at the beginning of the book. I'm looking for it, but yes, it was the beginning of the book that a mother was sending her daughter off to New York and wanted to know if she would be all right. We laid the cards down and looked at them. The pictures gave a very solid answer, but I could also tell that psychically a bigger story was trying to come through. A phrase kept coming to me over and over: ripped heart, ripped heart. They were really graphic words, and I didn't want to use them. I assumed Sage would go to New York, fall in love, and have her heart broken. But instead of watering down what I heard, this is a very powerful example of not watering down and saying exactly what you're seeing, by the way. But instead of watering down, I followed my senses and stayed true to the words I had heard. The card that triggered the words was the 3 of Swords. I told Donna that Sage would experience a ripped heart. I said it could very possibly mean Sage would fall in love and be very disappointed. I offered a creative suggestion to do something soon thereafter. Make it something really fun, I said, so that Sage will have a reserve of good memories to fall back on when the time comes. Donna followed my advice, also sensing something was needed. She took her daughter and some friends to Disney World. They had the trip of a lifetime. Her daughter went off to New York shortly afterwards. Unbeknownst to any of us, Sage had a rare heart defect, and her heart spontaneously, literally ripped in half, and she died on a sidewalk in New York. Months later, Donna came to me and told me this story. I was shocked. It was unbelievable that the words I'd heard were so specific and true. I also was in awe that due to that reading, Donna created one last wonderful memory with her daughter. In that one moment, I vowed not to censor or reinterpret information received during the reading. I learned to trust messages that came from beyond and through the images from the cards. I'd become a believer in the transformative power of the psychic tarot craft. Yeah. Yeah. Like, what, I mean, oh my God, that story was heartbreaking. Yeah. But like, how beautiful that she, she took the advice and they had a trip of a lifetime, like how wonderful that it's just like, instead of it being a healing balm to her daughter, it became a healing balm to her losing her daughter. Like, it's just amazing. Like, I am in absolute awe sometimes of those like very extreme examples. Cause like most of the time, guys, is very prosaic in a way of what I do for a living. But there are some extreme examples. And that's not, to like show off. That's not an example to show off. But, like I've had those. I've had those ones where it's just like, you're kidding me. Like what? Like, I've never seen the hanged man before or since be referring to an actual hanging. But there was this one reading that I did, and it was in a public, I think it was in a public space, and it was just a one-off, like kind of like this. I think it was on my live stream, actually. So sometime in the last 6 years or so, I might have given this drive-by session. Maybe it wasn't on this live stream, but I think it was like when I was doing like drive-by sessions where I was pulling one card a question, and I pulled the hanged man, and they then messaged me privately and said like, that's how they passed away. And I just wanted to know that they were okay. But I didn't interpret it. That way, but they were just like, but can it also be this? And I'm just like, sure can. Okay. All right. So, and then I ran around the room in a loop, like, and then went back to doing my reading. So there's some, most of us, if you've been doing this long enough, like you will have extreme examples. But the day-to-day stuff, not so much. So Stephanie says, I think it also just gave me more confidence that I was on the right track. Yes. Yeah. Katie said, that's intense. Yes, it was. So there was that example. It was more extreme. And then the other example that I really loved was more towards the end of the book, where they talk a little bit about reading for a 21-year-old woman who was very distressed. Wasn't long before I found myself amazed. As her life unfolded before me, I saw it as though I was looking at myself at 21. If I had gone to an accurate reader when I was 21 years old, my reading would have been this one. The core message of the reading was a clear warning that her life would come tumbling down within the next year due to a fairly destructive relationship and many unresolved past issues. Unless she could learn to meet those challenges head on and in a different manner, her house of cards would fall down around her. The reading gave specific actions and shifts that would prevent inevitable pain. She seemed rather shocked, yet on some level knew these truths. These were the same messages her heart had been trying to get to her for some time. I gave her information honestly and openly. I wasn't sure if she would have made the changes or not. 3 years after this electric reading, the young woman booked another appointment. As we proceeded to start a new reading, she told me that indeed all the predictions had come to pass. She said she'd wished she'd heeded that advice. She was now starting from zero and pulling the pieces back together. I realized I would have made the same choices at 21 years old, even with the reading. Even though you may receive the exact map you need, you still may not be ready to act on its wisdom in your life. Those were the main two that I really felt was very interesting. There's more. There's definitely more. So tapping, divination, witness. Oh, so let's go into, hold on. Stephanie says, and sometimes the only way we can learn the lesson is to go through it. Yeah, exactly. Like this, my tattoo, my high priestess. You guys see it upright, right? I see it as reversed, because my meaning the high priestess is reversed is every time that I have not trusted my intuition and been burned in the butt for it. Sometimes you don't learn. You have to learn through the doing. Sorry, my foot is absolutely asleep right now. Woohoo. Okay, so let's talk about the 6 principles and the initial image. The initial image is interesting. It's an interesting concept, and so I do think that I might be pulling some of these concepts into my readings. There was another one that I saw. I don't know if it was in the initial image or grounding. Yes, ground. I'll get to it. I will get to it. So the initial image, first of all, is basically it's the main start before the 6 principles. So a good way to get your intuitive compass pointing north during a reading is to seek out an initial image. The initial image is like no other technique proposed by other tarot readers. So this is like kind of like exclusive to Nancy. It's ideally suited for reading using psychic tarot in that one receives a psychic message or image before reading any cards. It is a quickly flashed image of the seeker at the moment of the reading. Sorry, hold on one second. All right, cool. This could be received as a short movie, a picture, or simply a knowing of the seeker, as their souls would have us know. The image or story clarifies the seeker's current relationships with their own lives and goes beyond any symptoms they might initially present. Capturing the state of the seeker's mind or spirit is profoundly useful when seeking the right tone or direction for the reading. And sometimes it'll come to you and sometimes it won't too. So finding the initial image isn't very complicated. Simply close your eyes, open your intuitive channels, and quietly ask the creative unknown for a story relating to the seeker's soul. The process may feel a bit like hide and seek. You ask to see the soul's story and then attempt to locate the seeker. Note that you won't always receive an initial image. The request for one is only granted when necessary to inform the reading. When given, initial images often appear as short films. For instance, the seeker is on a roller coaster or running down a country road with others. Other times, it may be just a snapshot, such as a worried king on his throne or a young child looking at frog eggs. Most of the time, this is a knowing, meaning that you don't really see anything as much as sense a story that proceeds in your imagination as if you were creating it. But you are not creating it, you are receiving it. The difference is the sacred intent, which will be explained more fully within the 6 principle system. Explore the initial image method for yourself and find a willing partner for the exercise. So, the initial image is a powerful first nod from the source. Even if the information received from the spiritual snapshot detours from the seeker's main focus, its direction is the one to follow. For instance, let's say the initial image of a particular seeker portrays her joyfully singing on stage. When asked what brings her to the reading, however, she intently focuses on solutions for an unhappy marriage. As a reader, you would certainly explore the different dimensions of the marriage, but the creative unknown has given a significant clue for the focus of the reading. Something about her creativity, her voice, or acknowledgement. Would a focus on her creativity serve both her and the marriage? What does she want to sing about? Could she be distracting herself with the relationship rather than stepping up to the plate with her own life risks? The reason for the image may not be clear in the beginning, but it remains a relevant clue. It's spiritual information calling for recognition. You may or may not disclose the image you receive to the seeker, but certainly relate it when deemed appropriate or important. So there's the concept of the initial image, right? And now we have the 6 principles system, useful for any kind of divination. So the principles are grounding, intent. Well, first it's the initial image, I think. Actually, no, I think you would ground first, then the initial image, then intent, form, synchronous. Okay. But the main, Six principles are grounding, intent, form, synchronicity, closure, and integration. Tarot is, in this instance, the featured sacred tool. So then you have some grounding exercises, right? This altered stage, the first initial step, essential step in grounding is a willingness to suspend your perceptions and projections. So the second necessary step is to leave the censor behind. The censor is very helpful during the day, but in sacred time becomes chatter. It's important to learn how to switch off and minimize it to curtail second guessing and doubt. So this altered state of consciousness is one of active listening. In lay terms, stop talking. Reassure the busy part of your brain that you are simply exploring other ways of thinking. And if you like, find playful ways to negotiate your inner power struggle between the logical and the intuitive. And then also, not only do you have like the bigger examples from clients' readings in italics, you also have these little pull quotes, which are more of like asides about like talking with spirit or, you know, what. So the aside in this instance is, I often see my chatter mind as the Duchess with the rolling pin in Alice in Wonderland. I shrink her to about half an inch tall so that even though she is still there, I don't have to listen to her. Good tip. So many ways to ground. Most grounding is composed of some sort of rhythmic, slow, deep breathing, closed eyes, and shifting your focus inward. Or noticing and releasing any current blocks or resistances, doing a body scan. Breath is your reliable transport from human time to spirit time, and there are all kinds of techniques. Visualization is also a useful tool for those of us who think in pictures. Another way of grounding for those of us who have an interest in chakras, this is something that I want to start doing. And I actually did this technique with my Spirit Junkie Oracle affirmations deck, and I'll show you the card that I pulled right afterwards. The 7 major wheels form a vertical line from the top of your head to the apex of your legs and pelvis. Hold the cards at crown level and then pull them all the way down through your energy wheels, through crown, third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, sacral, and root. Do this 3 times. The first time, envision both you and your deck emptying all attachments, becoming an empty vessel. On the second pass, imagine white light filling you and the deck. Use the third pass to seal that blank energy into you and the deck for the duration of the reading. So that's on page 114. So I highlighted it and flagged it, and I'm going to start integrating that as part of like my opening work before, you know, I get on the phone with clients. So I did this. And you can also do prayer as well for grounding. There's many different techniques. So I did that with my affirmation deck, and I pulled this card. I am in sync with the flow of life. It's actually funny because of the image that I got with the moon there, the crescent moon, because I was going through all of my jewelry yesterday and today and trying to like sort things and, you know, make things neater and see like, oh, this needs the clasp on this needs fixing or whatever. And I discovered one of my favorite necklaces that has a crescent moon. So I'm like, I am in sync with the flow of life. That's also synchronicity. And it's just like, it's all okay. Maybe I should be wearing that necklace more. And then here's another little tidbit that her little aside, and I'm just like, oh, I've done this before. So I've read in public spaces before. specifically coffee shops, usually with a client. If reading in a public sphere, I suggest my clients imagine the noise around us as a lovely soundscape for their life. There was also, I don't know where it is in this book, but I think she also mentions about like, hey, if the phone rings, like if the client's phone rings in the middle of a session, it's just like you take that as part of the reading. Like everything, like there's no like you're in reading space. So everything is part of the reading, including the barking dog, including the phone call, even if it's a telemarketer. Like it's all a part of the reading. And this is where I learned that from. So first principle, grounding. The second principle is intent, which is basically asking the question. Readings aren't mainly for prediction, though there will be messages that predict certain events or feelings. Many readings raise our level of awareness and the menu of choices in our lives. The power of a true reading is to help you own wisdom, hope, and creativity and creativity rise to the occasion. Why do I keep on seeing like there's another part of this book that is just like I feel like I'm like now seeing I like keep on seeing things in my peripheral. Like talk about seeing things sideways or information coming at us sideways. So intent is phrasing the question. If the first principle of grounding could be compared to the X on the map that states you are here, the second principle of intent would be your or the seeker's desired destination. The intent could be a question, request, clarification, or affirmation of the current choices. In looking for an absolute question or intent, know what you know. It may sound obvious, but the obvious is often overlooked. Start by asking a question and ask what you already know about it. For instance, should I stay in this relationship? What do I already know? I've noticed some red flags. I've never been good at leaving a relationship until it's well beyond saving. Part of me kind of hopes it'll fall apart. I'm afraid to be alone. Use your truths then to create clearer focus for the reading. Integrate them into a fuller question so you can find out what you really need to know. The real questions in this particular example might be, do I have enough faith in myself and or my partner to face the shortcomings of our relationship? What is needed to be in this relationship fully or leave before it disintegrates further? Or what is my greatest fear about being alone? Ask questions that offer choices. Discover what is truly within your ability to change. Real choices come with real power and responsibility. And then there are other examples of questions. Also, talking about predictive questions, such as yes or no questions, often yield little wisdom. Asking about others' motives or repeating a question in a variety of ways to see if the answer changes are also a disrespectful use of the energy. This kind of game playing offers little choice, therefore little responsibility or power. So I flagged this portion, which is the truest question, which is a meditation. Yep. So Stephanie says, yes, I loved how she dug deeper on the question that way. And then it gives us the opportunity to then dig deeper in our own questions, whether we're consulting the tarot for ourselves or whether we're consulting the tarot on behalf of clients. So now the third principle is form. So basically, that's going to be the content of the reading itself, the cards pulled in the case of a tarot reading. Intent and form go together like a hand in a glove. Intent is the question for the reading, and form is cards chosen in a specific structure. It's a sacred response to intent. So this is probably the thickest chapter. One of the thicker chapters, because it gives examples of spreads, of tarot spreads. As in grounding, form offers another golden opportunity to become the sacred witness. The reader reroutes around ego to make clear choices about the three parts of form: initial shuffling or mixing of the cards, determining their direction, and the choice of spread or layout. Although most of these methods described are not necessarily traditional, they will hopefully provide an inspiration as well as the mechanics of a reading. For some readers, mixing the cards means shuffling, others cut the cards or do a messy pile. It's helpful to allow the cards to move freely. As with any of the 6 principles, mixing cards is an opportunity to open new doors of perception. For instance, if the intent concerns a thorny or emotionally packed issue, a way to acknowledge and release that stuck energy is to mix the cards face down in one big messy pile. The reader would then choose cards from the chaos. So I really liked that concept where it's just like you can put all of this intent into the different aspects of the 6 principles and like layer and layer and layer and go deeper and deeper and deeper. So like I never like for a spread, it made sense for me to like, oh, well, we'll do this in the shape of a star, like the hands and the feet and the head, you know, for like a body, you know, like the human body, right? Like a pentacle, right? We can also shape this in the shape of a star for like a money question or whatever, because pentacles coins, right? So I've considered that portion of it, like the form of the spread, to go with the intent of the question, but I never considered the method of shuffling to also go with the type of question. Like that to me is just like, like it's so deep. Like you could get so deep into this. And then also this little tweaks, man. In the form chapter, for complicated issues that need a slow, steady pace, consider placing all of the cards face down initially, and then flip only the cards you are presently focusing on. If the question is fairly straightforward, you can lay the cards all face up. But I liked that. Like, I'm just like, oh, I can do that. Like, I can slow down the reading by putting all of the cards face down and then flipping them over and then flipping them back down so that we can really focus and like pace ourselves in this question. Or you can flip up, like if you're doing a Celtic cross, you can flip up the first, the initial cross, right? You can flip the 1 and then the crossing card. So 1, 2, right? And then you can do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like you could do that. Like I'm just like, and I know this is probably not the first time that concept was introduced to me, but like I don't know, for this time around, like it's just like, oh, I can do that. Okay, yeah. So for a big spread like Celtic Cross, I like doing one at a time for sure. And I do read Celtic Cross one at a time and then look at the interplay. Well, I'll do them. Okay, I'll lay them out. I'll let my eye focus on whatever one is, you know, calling to me at that time. And then I'll read one by one. And then I'll like summarize, right? But so I do it one at a time. However, I like the concept of keeping them face down and only facing up the ones that I'm focusing on. Because that way my focus won't get distracted. You know, a lot of the time when you're doing a Celtic Cross for someone and they know what Celtic Cross is, maybe not intimately, but they know the roughly, like they're going to be looking at the final outcome card. Your client is probably going to be like, whoop, right to the final outcome card, especially if it's a big bad. And you're just like, whoa, the devil card. What does that mean? It doesn't look good. Oh. So now you've got the client focused on this one card that you're not talking about. And you can just easily fix that situation by keeping them all face down and only flipping over the cards that you're talking about. I'm just like, of course. then she does talk briefly about reversals. So I'm a reader that does, yeah, exactly. Yes, you're right, Stephanie. They can get so easily distracted. LOL. Like I don't blame them though, but it's just like, oh, I can help out the situation there. So she does talk a little bit about reversals. I happen to be a reader that reads with reversals. Um, but the way she described reversals, I liked how she described it, that it was like a shift in thinking or shade, like major, like upright or major keys, and reversals are minor keys. Slightly mysterious, more subtle, sometimes haunting. Reversals can capture a more subtle tone. Squirrel. It's true. It's true. Um, Reading a card in its reverse position requires focus, time, and yes, patience. However, the results can be well worth the cosmic labor. So I decided to read reversals not because of the cosmic labor involved or that the subtlety. I just thought in order to be a true tarot reader, I had to read with reversals. That's the long and short of it. And now it's just like I read with reversals. That's just what I do. Just like I would have, like if I could go back, I probably still would have read with reversals, but it's just like I didn't know I had the choice. So, other insights to reversals could be the absence of something or someone, if a court card, a hidden issue, an area of difficulty, something not quite yet manifested, an energy or an idea that's out of balance. The subject of the card needs more focus than it is currently receiving. So those are other examples of how to interpret reversals. There are entire books on the subject of reversals. So yeah, exactly. I do reversals too. There are so many subtleties to it. Yeah, there really are. I like to, especially if there's a lot of reversals coming up, like here, when you shuffle in a way that produces reversals, on rare occasions, all chosen cards are reversed. This could indicate that the information coming through is a completely different perspective for the seeker. In these instances, turn each card upright while keeping in mind that this reading will present new concepts. That's another way of thinking of it. So I like to describe reversals, especially when reversals come up in like key positions. I will say, like reversals are not negative. They're simply a miscommunication or a blockage to the energy. And sometimes it's not even those two things. So it's just like, so let's like calm down. Calm down. It's okay. And sometimes there are cards that I like to see reversed rather than upright. Like I am completely fine with the Five of Pentacles coming up reversed. Like, please let the Five of Pentacles come up reversed. Like, or the Five of Cups. Actually, most of the fives. So then in the form, we're still in the form chapter. Then there's spreads. Talking about the temptation to keep pulling cards. Try to avoid that. 1 card spread, 3 card spread, path spread, Celtic cross, traditional Celtic cross, and the Wellesian Celtic by James Wells. Love James Wells, by the way. So I also do talk about the Celtic cross in my book, How to Read Tarot. There's an entire chapter on the Celtic cross and how I understand the Celtic cross. And I think it's because I got it out of Legend, the Arthurian Tarot, the little white book. I could be wrong about that, but like I read the Celtic cross differently. And we also do have a workshop on that too, a video on that too, on this very channel. So you can always look that up too. So Stephanie says, I'm not sure if it's this book I picked up this trick to consciously unblock with the querent by turning it upright. Probably, like I don't remember reading that specifically, but that doesn't mean that you didn't get the idea for it in here. Like the seed was probably planted, possibly. So path spread, circle spread, all different spreads. So now that you've grounded, created intent, learned about form, you must be itching to read those cards. In the next chapter, synchronicity. That's when you read the cards. I love the concept of synchronicity. Love it. Katie says, I read reversals with how it makes me feel. Some are completely the opposite of the card, like Hangman reversed is standing upright, all fine, and other times it is less version, says a lesser positive of a positive card, or a not so negative of a negative card. Yes, exactly. It's subtle. It can be extreme as well. Like sometimes when I see the Queen of Cups reversed, I think of it as someone that goes to the extremes. They're either very, very cold, like very like removed from their feelings, or like super, super like in their fifis, like super in their fifis, very wishy-washy, like very hot and cold. That's how I interpret the Queen of Cups reversed. In general, context is everything. I will probably read it very differently in the context of a reading for somebody else, and it depends on the question, obviously. But yeah, it can be very extreme, or it could be subtle. So synchronicity, the fourth principle. The truth is always revealed to those who are ready. One of my favorite definitions of synchronicity is the divine giggle. The idea of synchronicity is that simultaneous events are meaningfully related. Jung coined the word to describe the governing dynamics that underlies the whole human experience on all levels. Readings encompass synchronicity in their shuffling, the selection of certain cards, and each card's particular viewpoint. Synchronicity is the flow, and the reading is trusting in the flow no matter what. Also, a reason why I laughed when I saw this card. I am in sync with the flow of life. Like the flow, the flow, the flow. Okay. All right. I get the point. The polar opposite of this flow is luck, a paradigm that promotes separateness and powerlessness. As a prime example, many readers and sometimes seekers will question if the cards selected are actually the correct ones, or the wrong ones chosen by mistake. Luck is the underlying current of these kinds of doubt and does not determine any step of the reading process. In fact, if the two major forces at work in any reading are love and fear, then luck is the middle child of fear. There are no wrong cards. I like this little quick tip too. I tell clients that if they indeed selected the wrong card, its image will change before it is turned face up. That's a good little tip there. Yeah, here, exactly. Even environmental sounds such as barking dog, a faraway train whistle, an ambulance siren, or a phone call during the sacred time may contribute greatly to the reading. In this space, it's as if all worlds of reality converge. I suggest my clients note who phoned during the reading. The caller or the message may shed light on the client's reading. Even the timing of a pesky sales call speaks volumes about the question we were investigating. And then she talks a little bit about the three styles in viewing a card: literal, symbolic, and psychic. And she gives an example with the death card. So literal is describing what you see. Symbolic is what do these things symbolize? And then psychic is the end is bringing the new form. I feel the glow of the sun, that its warmth will soon be gone. So it's like, so it's 3 layers. And then they have an example of a traditional Celtic sample reading. Which is very helpful. With the back and forth between the seeker and the reader. Then the 5th principle is closure. Closure is the profound yet often overlooked part of sacred communication. Performing an act of closure is much like saying goodbye to good friends. A steadfast ritual with tarot is to choose one last card. So I do an oracle card. Y'all know it. If you've watched this long enough, you know how I conduct my readings pretty much. The final card is the reading's last thought or idea. After turning it over and reading it, you can blow out the candles. And then the 6th principle is integration. Choices made in love bear fruit. Integrating the wisdom gained from a reading is the biggest challenge of divination. Unless absorbed, the knowledge slips away. If you do not integrate what you felt and sensed was true direction, a sacred amnesia takes over. Actually, sacred amnesia is desirable when reading others. You are not meant to hold knowledge for another. It is for the seeker alone. The high priestess is not your filing cabinet. We talk about this in Card Slingers. Stephanie says, I love asking the querent what they see in the card. Yeah, it's a collaboration. You know, it's like, it's not all me talking. You know, like, what do you see in the card? Talk to me a little bit about this. Oh, how does this card make you feel? You know? Oh, and then here's another one. Here's another one that I didn't realize, but I was doing this all along, okay? I was doing this before this book came out, before I even knew that there were tarot conferences, all of this. I tell clients I won't say anything they don't already know. It's just weird when a complete stranger says it out loud. So my version of that is, I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't know already on some level. So reading this for the first time and then reading it again now, I'm just like, whew, okay. And that's it. Those are the 6 principles. Then the next chapter, Reading Tarot with the Sight, talks a little bit about how to read with all of it. So 6 principles. Grounding, beginning by entering the spirit realm by becoming fully present through measured breathing and an inward focus. Intent, seek the truest need or focus for the reading. Form, choose the cards and spreads for the reading. Synchronicity, gather all energetic messages, insights, ideas, and patterns. Closure, gathering all the cards and giving thanks. And integration, after a brief time for further contemplation, decide how to bring the relevant insights into everyday life. And then you're looking at the spectrum of readings from solely tarot to psychic channeling. So you have different versions. So you have the tarot reading with a hint of the sight. I think I said this before. A tarot and psychic reading, a psychic reading with a hint of tarot, and then a full-on psychic reading. And then each of the 6 pillars are discussed within each of those. The tarot reading with a hint of grounding, intent, form, synchronicity, and closure. So there was one thing that I saw in the tarot reading, which was a 6-card spread. Cards 1 and 2 are the heart themes for the seeker. Card 3 represents her head, the awareness of those two themes. Card 4 is her left hand, what she is capable of receiving from the universe currently. Card 5 is her right hand, what she is manifesting. And then the last card is card 6, which represents the next step. So I'm going to have to try doing that spread. Very interesting. Yeah. So Stephanie, I am also that too. I think I lean more towards tarot with a hint of sight. I'm working on it. I will be working on it too. I don't think there's ever going to be really a time that that I'm going to do a full on whole psychic reading with like no cards. I have done it before in the past because I had to, for like my Intuition 101 class, I had to do readings for someone, and it actually turned out pretty well. But also it was a friend of mine and she's very kind, but it did, I did see some things. I'm just like, guess it does work without the cards. Okay. So like, where was it? I liked the tarot and psychic reading. So because it's just like the reading was happening and then you were pulling cards for clarification too. I feel like my friend works in that way. Or sometimes she's just like, oh, okay, I need the, it's just like, all right, and here's this. And that's why I was saying that. And it's just like, oh, yes. And this also validates this or clarifies this. So Stephanie says, the more I study tarot, the more I realize I'll never be done learning. That's a sign of a true master. Knowing that there's still much more to know, right? Yeah, so that's I don't know if that's necessarily considered psychometry. I did it with photos years ago. That was actually what I was known for way before I ever tried tarot cards. Yeah, like some tarot is part of life lessons. Yeah. So a lot of people don't know this about me. I did write about it on my website, so you can look it up. But tarot was not my first thing. I more got things from dreams. So I would interpret my dreams, and I would often have really like strong visual dreams, like hyper realistic dreams, and then the things would happen, and I'm just like, okay, something's going on here. That's a little weird. So I would connect better through my dreams and dream interpretation. So that was like kind of my way in, so to speak. And then I bought my mom a fortune telling kit with tarot as part of it, and like a little book on palmistry, and gave it to her, and then she gave it back to me, and then I started reading her cards. So that's how I started with tarot. But dreams for me was the first way in. So, and it's a good reminder to people. It's just like, maybe your first introduction to intuition isn't going to be the one that you necessarily keep forever and ever. Like, you change, you grow, you adapt. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. You evolve. So, do I still have weird ass dreams? I sure do. Do I still get phone calls from my mom asking me to interpret her dreams? Yes, I do. All right. So we are up to, I guess, the end of it. So helpful. I'm on the chapter of helpful boundaries, especially as a reader. Very helpful. Boundaries with strangers, boundaries with family and friends, boundaries with seekers and clients. And a reader is responsible for emotional safety and spiritual comfort of the seeker during the reading. And boundaries with the divine as well. Actually, that's where my bookmark is, because I do need to probably recommit to my contract with the divine. Actually, funnily enough, I believe there was that was in my reading that Melissa gave to me on Card Slingers that'll be coming up soon. We haven't, I don't think it's come out yet, on reading with the threes, and then the major arcana. There was something there about, like, you know, upping your contract or revising your contract with the divine, something like that. I'm just like, oh, okay. And then the traits of a true reader, which is only like 2 pages. So we done. Ta-da! Katie says, when I was small, a small child like 6 years old, I just say things that were fact. That used to freak my mother out. And she'd always say, how do you know that? And that was when I knew I had done something weird. I learned not to do that. A lot of us have those stories too. Just like, oh, I did something abnormal. Oh, let's go back to fitting in. It always made me wary of talking about what I see. So I sort of closed it down, sadly. And I talk about this too a lot, as like, talking about intuition and reconnecting with our intuition. It's a lot of it is unlearning the covers, that we put on to become adults. We just are not as free as adults, and it's sad. And a lot of the process of becoming more intuitive is not necessarily learning, but unlearning. So I totally hear you. It's just like, this is the space for weirdos, though. Like, welcome. All right. Does anyone have any questions about our first book club selection? Did we enjoy the process? Do we want to pick a different book? Not tonight, guys. I do think I need to, I wouldn't say structure it better, but just like give us a little bit more leeway. Like, I was very ambitious, I think, for our first selection because of the thinness of the book. I thought we were going to be able to knock it out and read it pretty quickly. And it was just like, oh, wait. Oh, wait, look at all of these exercises. Oh, wait, look at all of these revelations. Oh, okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed doing it. And any other takeaways? Okay. All right, cool. I'm down to do another. All right. So we do still have a list of the ones that I recommended the last time. So just pulled it up right here. Option 1 was Who Are You in the Tarot? That's about tarot birth cards and year cards by Mary Kay Greer. Option number 2 was the Unspell book by Maya Ohm. That's a lot of visualization and exercises. Just keep that in mind. Option number 3, which was Psychic Tarot, which we just read. And then option number 4 was Magical Tarot by Madame Pimita. So we can go from that list and just work through that list, or if you guys have any other suggestions, let me know. And we don't necessarily have to do a nonfiction book. We can also do fiction books as well. Like, for example, I don't know where I put the copy of this book, but I read a fiction book that had tarot in it. I think it was called The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. Hold, please. Let me find it for you guys. Yes, I was right. So I read this, and I read it recently enough that I could probably discuss it pretty well. But so this is fiction. And the premise of it why can't I find it? But basically the premise of it is that somebody gets this young woman gets gets basically like a telegram saying that she needs to come to the reading of the will of this woman, Mrs. Westaway, and there was just like it's accidental. She knows that she's not related to this person in any way, but she's like in financial trouble, and she's got people basically hunting her down because she borrowed money from the wrong people, and so now they're looking for her to pay up. But she's a tarot reader in a seaside booth, and so in dire circumstances, she decides to go and see if she can pass herself off as this long lost granddaughter of this woman that passed away, because she's a tarot reader, and that she's not a very nice tarot reader. She's not a very reputable tarot reader. I mean, like, she's she does readings and everything, but like she doesn't actually believe in it. She thinks like they're a scam. So she's a cold reader, basically. So, but it's fiction, and it was pretty good. It was pretty decent. So we don't have to read just nonfiction books in this book club, is my point. All right. Well, I see what time it is. I see we're coming up on 2 hours. I will ask the group, do we want to do the mid-episode reading, or we just bleh, or do we just want to do the weekend forecast? It's up to you guys. I'm fine either way. I don't mind. I'm kind of feeling just the weekend forecast, because we like, I don't know, I'm feeling a little tired. But it's up to you guys. And if we do the weekend forecast, I'm feeling the Citadel Oracle because it's close to hand. All right. By unanimous decision. All right. Thanks, guys. All right. Let's do the weekend forecast. And just a reminder to everyone that I do this every Friday night, unless otherwise noted. last weekend we were doing gaming, so that was fun. Thank you guys for the break. It's already, yeah, Stephanie, it's already a marathon session. I mean, I can't say that it's going to be a quick episode. I didn't say it was going to be a quick episode tonight either. So quorum is reached, correct. So we do these episodes every Friday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless otherwise noted, on different metaphysical and divination topics. So I wanted to do a book club, so I started a book club. So that's why we discussed psychic tarot tonight, but I'm open to suggestions as well. And we have coming up in August, it's going to be 6 years of doing these live streams pretty much every Friday night. So we have a really nice backstock of archives, if you will, of replays of past sessions, including, on the Celtic Cross, on the 5s and the 7s of the tarot, on court cards as well. I think court cards was like a 2-part, if not 3-part episode, on tapping, on tarot and tapping, on Ouija boards and spirit boards. Gosh, what else? There's been a lot. There's been a lot of episodes, and different deck reviews as well. And unboxings too. I love a good unboxing. Hopefully my packages will get to me, because I do have people that want to send me stuff. I think I am waiting on the Tarot Disassembled deck and guidebook to review it. Like, please come to me, come to Butthead. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So And you can always search too. If you're wondering, oh, did Hilary do an episode on that? Probably, yeah. Probably. All right, let's do the weekend forecast. Today we're going to do it from the Citadel Oracle from Fen Inkrights, which is a fantasy oracle deck that you can also use in tabletop role playing, just kind of cool. And look at the shape of these cards. And we are thinking about what we need to know this weekend. What do we need to know this weekend? Other than the astrology that I already told you guys at the top of the episode. And let us pass this deck through the chakras once. Twice. And a third time to seal it. Thank you, Nancy, for that new technique. Ooh, interesting. This is a really, really pretty card. I don't necessarily like the I have a feeling I'm not going to like the interpretation, but it's a very pretty card. So we are getting the Enchanter, Deception and Trickery. Look at that. Let me grab the guidebook. So the Enchanter is a part of the Academy suit in this deck, which is about development and growth. Page 70. Okay. So what do we need to know this weekend? A flash of flame, whorls of green smoke, and a flock of doves that appears from nowhere. The audience applauds. The enchanter takes a bow. They know how to entrance and entertain, and with a century of arcane learning behind them, they never put a foot wrong. But is it truly magic, or is it all smoke and mirrors? You may be in a situation where you've been forced to deceive another, and whether it was intentional or not, you run the risk of being caught out in your lie. You could back away, hoping that it will be forgotten about or resolve itself in time, but you run the danger of it spiraling out of control. Or you can own up and take responsibility for your actions. The decision is yours. Well, I can't think of any deception that I've been committing currently, so I don't know if I necessarily agree with the guidebook interpretation of this. So I would just say be cautious this weekend of deception of any kind. It could be unintentional, but still just be cautious, especially with Mercury in retrograde and Venus in retrograde. So Stephanie says, oof. And I like the shape of these too. Yeah, I love these. Really, really cool little deck, but like, not so great message there. Okay. So be on your guard, lovingly on your guard. All right. Thank you all for watching so much and discussing Psychic Tarot by Nancy Antenucci. I so appreciate it. As always, if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this every week. So if you have not read Psychic Tarot, I do have a guide to reading it in the previous episode of once we decided that this was going to be the book. But go at your own pace. And then when you're ready, you can always watch this replay and, drop your comments. to the replay, because I would love to hear what you thought about Psychic Tarot and what exercises and tips and tricks you will be integrating into your tarot practice from reading this book. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm feeling, Katie, from that card. It might be a miscommunication instead of a deception. It might appear as deception. Yes, I agree with you. So good night, Stephanie. Katie says, thank you, Hilary, and have a good weekend. You too. Everyone's saying goodbye to everybody. I love this little community we have. It just makes my heart so glad. So once again, I am Hilary, professional tarot reader and EFT tapping practitioner, here to demystify the mystical and put you in touch with the most beautiful of things, your own intuition. Don't argue with me. You have intuition. You are psychic. I say it, and Nancy says it too. So have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and a good week ahead of you. And I will see you next time, same bat time, same bat channel, Friday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye. Let me take away my agenda because we be done. Bye.